In Venezuela, acting President Delcy Rodriguez announced the first shipment of liquefied petroleum gas, a milestone of the national hydrocarbon industry. And the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees has issued a stark warning about escalating Israeli violence in the occupied West Bank, describing it as a silent war. And 8 members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and independent suppliers maintained their decision not to increase oil production for the month of March. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin the news. Venezuela's acting President Delcy Rodriguez announced the export of the country's first gas molecule, positioning the nation as an emerging power in this field. The acting president announced the departure of the Chesapeake Lady ship with the first shipment of liquefied petroleum gas, affirming that this milestone was achieved together with the working class for the welfare of the Venezuelan people. Previously, on January 16th, the acting president had reported during the National Council of Productive Economy that for the first time in its history, Venezuela had signed a contract for the commercialization of liquefied petroleum gas, a step that positions Venezuela as an emerging power in this field beyond oil. It was also highlighted that this export represents the efforts of the national hydrocarbon industry to continue the sustained increase in its sovereign production. And the government of Cuba ratified its condemnation of all forms of terrorism while reaffirming its commitment to the fight against money laundering in the region. In a statement issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Caribbean nation expressed Cuba unequivocally condemns terrorism in all its forms and manifestations while reaffirming its commitment to cooperate with the United States and other nations to strengthen regional and international security. The statement follows. Cuba categorically declares that it does not host, support, finance, or allow terrorist or extremist organizations. Our country maintains a policy of zero tolerance towards the financing of terrorism and money laundering and is committed to the prevention, detection, and confrontation of illegal financial activities in accordance with international standards. The entity also emphasized that any past interactions involving individuals subsequently designated as terrorists occur solely in limited humanitarian contexts linked to international recognized peace processes at the request of their respective governments in a fully transparent manner. At the end of its proclamation, the foreign ministry states that the Cuban people and the U.S. people benefit from constructive engagement, cooperation in accordance with the law, and peaceful coexistence. Cuba reaffirms its willingness to maintain a respectful and reciprocal dialogue geared toward tangible results with the government of the United States based on mutual interests and international law. And in Mexico, a demonstration was held to denounce the intensification of the U.S. blockade against Cuba aimed at preventing oil from reaching the island, a situation that could lead to a crisis in public and essential services. Antonio Aranda with the details.
Various pro-Cuba activist organizations held a political and cultural event in the former United States Embassy in Mexico to demand lifting of the economic and oil blockade against the island.
Miles de cosas que pasan en la historia de este mundo me hacen sentir que giramos dentro de un absurdo.
During the demonstration, activists warned that Donald Trump's threats to impose tariffs on countries that send oil to Cuba will provoke an unnecessary humanitarian crisis.
Es un bloqueo brutal, por eso también le decimos.
It is a brutal blockade, which is why we are also telling our government that Mexican oil has to go to Cuba. We are talking about death, it is death. This is part of those warlike measures that strangle a dignified people like Cuba. And this obviously means they will not have access to electricity or many other essential services.
A servicio eléctrico, a muchas cosas.
The organization called on the people of Mexico to maintain their stance of providing humanitarian aid as an act of national sovereignty.
We are urging the Mexican government to maintain this support. We know the pressures are many, but as our president has rightly said, a dignified woman, a brave woman's sovereignty of our country comes first, and this relationship cannot be betrayed. Mexico comes first, its sovereignty, and as such, as a people and a sovereign nation, we will always stand firm. This is an act to show the Mexican government that we want support for Cuba to continue.
Que el pueblo de México quiere que se le siga apoyando a Cuba.
Y propusieron They also proposed that all levels of local and state governments speak out in favor of aid to Cuba to ensure continued support.
Como ayuda humanitaria o como sea
Whether as humanitarian aid or in any way necessary, the important thing is not to stop not even for a second supporting this great revolution, which, the more it is attacked and opposed, continues to be more supportive of the peoples of the world.
siendo más solidaria con todos los pueblos del mundo.
La presidenta de México, Claudia Sheinbaum, The president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, recently stated that preventing oil from reaching Cuba could significantly impact basic services for the Cuban people. She added that Mexico will seek alternatives to continue sending humanitarian aid.
La aplicación de aranceles a países que suministran
The
petróleo
imposition of tariffs on countries that supply oil to Cuba could trigger a large-scale humanitarian crisis, directly affecting hospitals and other basic services for the Cuban people. This situation must be avoided through respect for international law and dialogue between the parties.
internacional y el diálogo entre las partes.
La mandataria también informó que The president also stated that this humanitarian aid will consist primarily of food supplies. Los activistas mexicanos señalaron Mexican activists stated that they will continue encouraging the shipment of oil to Cuba to prevent a crisis. Antonio Aranda, teleSUR, Ciudad de México.
We now have a first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. And I'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Costa Rica, after the release of the preliminary results from the presidential and legislative elections by the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, official candidate Laura Fernandez has emerged victorious with 41.51% of the vote. Fernandez from the right-wing Sovereign People's Party surpassed the 40% threshold required by Costa Rican electoral law, winning the election in the first round, with a voter turnout of 72.36%, the highest since 2022. Fernandez defeated her closest rivals, Álvaro Ramos from the National Liberation Party, who at the time of the preliminary results release had 38.13% of the votes, and Claudia Robles from Citizen Agenda Coalition, who trails with 5.84%. This marks the second time in Costa Rica's 204 years history that a woman has been elected president. And according to preliminary data from the Costa Rican Supreme Electoral Tribunal, the governing conservative Sovereign People's Party leads the results of the legislative elections held on Sunday with a significant advantage over its main contenders. With 90% of the ballots counted, the Sovereign People's Party has obtained 39.09% of the votes, which would allow it to obtain around 30 seats in the Legislative Assembly. In second place is the historic National Liberation Party with 25.29% and 18 deputies, followed by the to obtain around 30 seats in the Legislative Assembly. In second place is the historic National Liberation Party with 25.29% and 18 deputies, followed by the Broad Front with 15.72% of the votes. Further behind are the Citizen Agenda Coalition and the Christian Social Unity Party with 1 deputy each. And reports reveal that Haiti is facing one of the most serious crises in its recent history, marked by territorial control by armed groups, the collapse of governance, and a deep humanitarian emergency. The escalation of violence is particularly severe in Port-au-Prince, the capital, where criminal armed groups control approximately 80% of the territory. As a result, millions of people face food insecurity, forced displacement, and lack of access to basic services. The alarming situation has the United Nations and international aid agencies on high alert, although assistance efforts have been limited, mainly affecting Haitian families. Several fires devastated various areas of Los Alerces National Park in Argentine Patagonia, a UNESCO World Heritage Site home to 2,600-year-old trees. Several environmentalists describe the fires as one of the worst to hit Argentina in decades, having already devastated more than 40,000 hectares. The crisis has reignited anger toward the country's president, Javier Milei, whose environmental policy over the past 2 years has drastically cut spending on a number of programs and agencies that protect national parks and prevent fires from starting and spreading. And Uruguayan President Yamandu Orsi is currently visiting China. Our correspondent Bruno False is there with all the details.
Greetings, comrades. I am in Beijing now to report to you that the president of Uruguay, Yamandu Orsi, have arrived in China to begin an official visit that will take place during this week. The agenda is centered in strengthening the bilateral bond and the political, economic, academic, and cultural cooperation in a global context of reconfiguring of international trade. The delegation that accompanied the President Yamandu includes government authorities and a large business delegation, reflecting the strategic priority that Montevideo gives to the reconfiguration and the relationship with China, and its commitment to public-private collaboration. In this framework, the Uruguayan Chancellor highlighted the historical nature of this visit. And let's listen now to his words.
La visita de un presidente de Uruguay que esté acompañado por el número.
The visit of a Uruguayan president, accompanied by the largest number of business leaders in history, more than 65, marks part of this new reality.
De rubros muy diferentes de los temas de la seguridad alimentaria, agrícola.
From very different sectors, including food security, agriculture, technology, and logistics.
Esa combinación público-privada.
We believe that this public-private partnership, which will be evident in President Orsi's delegation to China, comprised of several state ministers, especially from the productive sector and including numerous directors of state agencies, will undoubtedly mark a significant leap forward in various areas during our time in Beijing and Shanghai.
The political core of this visit will take place tomorrow with the meeting between Orsi and the President of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping, followed by the signing of important agreements aimed at deepening different aspects of the bilateral relationship, including trade, agriculture, innovation, logistics, and science and technology. Furthermore, the President Orsi will meet with the Prime Minister Li Qiang and the President of the National People Assembly, Zhao Leiji. China remains the main destination for Uruguayan exportations, concentrating more than a quarter of its external sales, with a key weight in products such as the soybeans, the meat, and the cellulose. With this news from Beijing, we return with you in the studios in La Habana, Cuba.
And we have now our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, don't go away. Welcome back. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees has issued a stark warning about escalating Israeli violence in the occupied West Bank, describing it as a silent war. Since October 2023, more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in the occupied territory, with nearly a quarter of them, approximately 250, being children, according to UNRWA Commissioner General Philip Lazzarini. On Sunday, Lazzarini highlighted the unprecedented scale of the violence, which includes intensified killings, home demolitions, forced displacements, and settlement expansions carried out by Israeli forces and settlers, escaping global scrutiny. In this context, UNRWA also warned that Palestinian communities continue to face daily intimidation and the destruction of their livelihoods with impunity. 8 members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and Independent Suppliers maintained their decision not to increase oil production for the month of March. The decision was made by Russia, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, Algeria, Kuwait, Kazakhstan, and Oman, confirming their statement of November 2, 2025 to suspend the gradual increase in production in March 2026 due to seasonal fluctuations. These 8 countries members raised production quotas by about 2.9 million barrels per day from April through December 2025, roughly 3% of global demand. The committee reaffirmed the crucial importance of ensuring full compliance and leveling of the updated compensation schedules. And the U.S. Department of Justice has released an extensive file on Jeffrey Epstein case, including disturbing testimony from alleged victims. Among the documents, one standout allegation describes ritual sacrifices, the dismemberment of babies, and acts of cannibalism. One of the testimonies collected by the Federal Bureau of Investigation describes scenes of extreme violence and rituals involving physical assaults and inhumane practices. After these texts were published, social media linked this information to past allegations, such as those made in 2008 by Mexican model Gabriela Rico, who publicly accused international elites of practicing cannibalism. After this accusation, the Mexican model was never seen again. And the latest release of Epstein's files reveals also, in addition to unspeakable horrors, these criminals' active involvement in crucial foreign policy issues. Geopolitics was a vital issue, which explains why his agenda of abuse and crimes includes the names of presidents, prime ministers, and royal family members. In one of the most striking emails recently published, Epstein has an exchange with businessman and political strategist Peter Thiel, where he exposes the plan of U.S. foreign policy. The premise is clear and quite similar to what is observed in the current administration of President Donald Trump. A divided world in permanent conflict is less able to challenge the United States. The finding also suggests that this is not a plan from the past, but one that continues to flow through sectors of the current political and economic elites as an idea of controlled destabilization. In the United States, the 2026 Grammy Awards became a stage for protest where renowned artists used their attire to send a powerful message. Several artists wore pins with the slogan "Eyes Out" during the 2026 Grammy Awards ceremony. Figures like Billie Eilish, Justin Bieber, and Joni Mitchell joined the initiative to raise awareness and protest the crimes committed by ICE against migrant populations. In this regard, producer Jack Antonoff stated that it is a good time for people to come together and seek a solution to the issue, given the abuses by the Trump administration against civilians. In this context, Puerto Rican artist Bad Bunny stole the spotlight during the Grammy Awards, not only for his win in the Best Urban Album category, but also for his speech against ICE and the anti-immigrant policies in the United States. At the start of his speech, the singer said, "Before thanking God, I want to say ICE out, clarifying the meaning of its message. We are not savages, we are not animals, we are humans. We are U.S. citizens too." The artist also acknowledged the tension and anger many Latino communities feel in response to the rhetoric of the U.S. administration, where he urged that this response should not come from hate, emphasizing that it must be built from another place, more specifically from love.
Before I say thanks to God, I'm gonna say eyes out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans and we are Americans.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but before we close, we end with the song Cuba de Pie, Cuba Standing, an anthem of resistance that highlights Cuba's national identity and sovereignty in the face of external pressures. You can remember all these stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.
Donde el mar abraza la orilla, donde el barrio sueña y nunca se arrodilla. No somos cifra ni voz prestada, somos historia viva, palabra ganada. La patria no cabe en una orden ajena, se cuida con pueblo, no con cadena. Cuando la presión toca la puerta, la dignidad